What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and it's time for a new year, baby. 2026. It is crazy how 2025 came and went. I just posted yesterday, or 2 days ago now, the anniversary of Drake Maye getting fired, so I can't believe it's already been another year, entering year 2 of this show. Very excited. And we got a lot to talk about. We got a really big matchup on Sunday with the Chargers visiting the Patriots for the wild card. We're now entering the tournament, baby. The tournament has begun. It is the NFL playoffs, and it is here, and now it's time to make some noise. We've been talking about it all the regular season. Once we started to see this team and how well they were performing week after week, this is what we've been waiting for. This is the time right here, right now. Also going to touch on a little bit of the Red Sox and a little bit of the Bruins because they're making some noise, whether we want them to or not. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But first, of course, we got to talk about the Patriots. It is high time we talk about the Pats. As you can see, here is the final tally of the Patriots 2025 NFL season. They lost 3 games. 3 games where I had them in my way too early season prediction that I made back in June. I had them with 5 losses. They did better than what I had. I had them going 12-5. They went 14-3. A complete 10-game turnaround. Unbelievable. Did not see this coming. And it's interesting to see kind of how this team has evolved, right? Because that first week against the Raiders was just, it was tough. It's almost like we felt like we were going to be in for a long season. Then they beat Miami pretty handily in Miami, something the Patriots rarely ever do. And then all of a sudden, what happened? They had a terrible, terrible game against the Steelers, who, let's be honest, lucked out on Sunday night with Tyler Loop missing that kick. But it's going to be, we felt like we were in for another long season. Not that we were going to be 4-13 bad, but, again, 7-10, 8-9, 9-8 at best. A lot of people, a lot of the pundits had them right around that kind of record. Which I didn't blame them. I mean, hell, I had us winning against Vegas, against Pittsburgh. Our first loss, in my mind, was going to be at Buffalo. Just because Josh Allen, Sean McDermott, I don't believe Sean McDermott is that great of a coach, but he's good enough to get Buffalo to where they got to the last 5-6 years. No doubt about it. But this is the issue that a lot of people didn't see coming, was that when we beat Buffalo, and Drake Maye and Stephon Diggs balled out the way they did, bam, that was it. You knew this season was different right then and there. Having to go into Buffalo, granted, it was week 5, but still, I think that means something. And so I think this has been a massive turnaround. We just tied the 99 Colts and the 08 Dolphins for the biggest turnaround in NFL history. Going from 4-13 to 14-3, doing it the way we did it. Drake Maye playing at an MVP-like level. And that's the first thing I want to get into, is I want to talk about this whole MVP debate. Right? So when you look at the overall statistics between Drake Maye and Matthew Stafford, and before I get into that, I do just want to say, listen, I'm not one of these people where Drake Maye needs to win it. Like, this is it. Like, it's all Drake Maye, or the thing is rigged, or it's scammed, or it sucks. Like, no, I don't care about that. I don't care about MVPs. I care about Lombardis. At the end of the day, that's what you should care about too. Are MVPs nice? Absolutely. Has Drake Maye earned the right to be the MVP of the season? Without a doubt. And this is what I want to bring up. So, first, talking about the overall statistics between Drake Maye and Matthew Stafford. Drake Maye obviously had the better record, finished higher in their respective conference in terms of seeding. It had one of the highest completion percentage in NFL history, and had the best passer rating in the NFL, had the best QBR in the NFL. And when you look at Stafford's numbers, 4,707 yards, 46 touchdowns, to 8 interceptions. Drake Maye had 4,394 passing yards and 31 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. So they evened out at the interception, especially with Matthew Stafford throwing 3 picks against Atlanta 2 weeks ago, which actually made this more of a debate, in my opinion, because a lot of people were still giving Stafford all the props, but then he throws 3 interceptions against the Falcons. So you have, those are the basic overall stats, and throwing for a season high, throwing for 4,700 yards, 46 touchdowns. That's great. That's excellent stuff. You can't knock that, and I'm not. That's not what I do. When you look at Drake Maye and Matt Stafford versus common opponents, okay? You have Drake Maye going 6-0 to Stafford going 4-2. Drake Maye completing 70% of his completions to Matt Stafford 67.2. Drake Maye throwing for more yards, 1,754 to Stafford's 1,535. And then they have the same amount of touchdowns, 14, but Drake Maye only threw 3 picks. While Drake Maye also had the more pass yards per game and better passer rating at 265.8 and a passer rating of 117.6. Okay, so that's the common opponents. You see the overall stats, favor Drake. You see the common opponents, favor Drake. And then the other interesting note was not that Drake Maye was good quarterback. The dude was next level, especially in his second year. Again, we all talk about the second year leap, right? But with what Drake Maye did was unreal, because he had a 71.95. I rounded up to 72 earlier, but it's, again, 7. If you break it down to the minuscule, completion percentage of 71.95%, tied for 5th all time. A 113.5 passer rating, 13th of all time. Then a QBR of 77.2, tied for 24th all time, and a yards per attempt at 8.9, tied for 36th all time. When you look at that and then compare Stafford's numbers to his best statistical seasons, and I'm going those 4 categories: completion percentage, passer rating, QBR, and yards per attempt, right? Pass yards per attempt. I just took Stafford's whole career and was like, okay, where was he the best at, right? Stafford's best completion percentage was in 2022 when he threw for 68%, which is tied for 80th all time. Stafford's passer rating was a 109.2 this year, which was tied for 33rd. Very good. But he's tied with Otto Graham from 1947. Like, the ball was still totally meant to hold on and run with it, not to throw it. Just saying. Good for you, Otto. A QBR of 71.3, where that was his best season doing that, was in 2019 with Detroit, which is tied for 63rd all time. And then a yards per attempt at 8.6, which was also in 2019, which is tied for 75th. And this was Drake Maye's second ever season. season. It's insane, right? To see kind of how Drake Maye, under Josh McDaniels, somehow put out one of the top seasons for a quarterback, period. Period. Not he did this bad, the best, but then everything else was average. No. It was up there, like totally up there. And it just goes to show that he did it with Stephon Diggs, who's coming off an ACL tear, Matt Collins, Kayshon Boutte, Pop Douglas, and Stafford did everything with Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. I mean, what else more do I need to say? Now, the only argument that I hear a lot, which probably drives you nuts and it drives me nuts, is when you have the talking heads, the national media, the former players who played while Stafford was in Detroit and, all of that, coming out and talking about how Matthew Stafford should win the award basically because Drake Maye can get here, can do this next year, the year after, whatever. Like, it's become the MVP is more of a legacy award for Matthew Stafford rather than was Stafford the most valuable player in the NFL. And that's the key word, valuable. What makes a guy valuable, right? Yes, throwing for 4,707 yards and 46 touchdowns absolutely makes you valuable to your team. But let's not forget, the Rams were 12-5 and are 5th in their conference. Whereas Drake Maye, in his second season ever, is 14-3 and the number 2 seed in the AFC. And won the AFC East for the first time. The Patriots have won the AFC East for the first time in 6 years. Led by Drake Maye himself. Who's more valuable? I, of course, Boston, would argue that it's Drake Maye. If you disagree with me, comment down below and tell me why. I would love to hear from you. You can also comment on my social medias in Instagram, X, or even, I'm going the other way, YouTube. But ultimately, I truly don't care who wins. I just want the Patriots to go make a deep playoff run to get to the Super Bowl and win it, as does everybody else. Every other playoff team wants that exact same thing. But I think the realest argument you could have with this is the fact that who is the most valuable player on their team? If you remove Matthew Stafford from the Rams and you remove Drake Maye from the Patriots, who's doing better? What team is doing better? Because with that, I think the Rams are doing better than the Patriots. Not to say that the Patriots couldn't have an average quarterback in there and get them to the playoffs, but to put up a season like Drake Maye has, show me a quarterback who's doing that in the NFL currently today with the talent that he has. You're not going to find it. Not in this world. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know what the Patriots have done and how good this Patriots team is very good. But at the same time, Drake Maye is absolutely the most valuable player in the NFL. And I just don't like the fact that you have the talking heads, you have Tom Brady, you got Ryan Fitzpatrick, Andrew Whitworth, all those guys and everybody else talking about how essentially that this is a legacy award because Stafford has never won it. Big deal. That shouldn't account for anything. It's the MVP of 2025. This isn't a legacy award. But It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, all the ballots were casted on Monday. I'm intrigued to kind of see what happens. And at the end of the day, if Drake Maye loses the MVP, but we make it to the Super Bowl, yeah, give me that. Give me that scenario. I'm good with that. So, going from MVP talk for the NFL to who I think are the MVPs of this 2025 Patriots team. I gave out the 6 Patriot captains of the 2025 regular season. Obviously, number 1 is Drake Maye. Look at what he did. I just showed you the stats. It's obviously Drake Maye is the number 1 captain of this Patriots team. Next, Robert Kraft. And I'm going to go back and forth here a little bit, but I have Robert Kraft number 2 because I was railing against this team a lot last year. Not because I wanted to, but because Jerod Mayo opened himself up to it. And it sucked. It wasn't fun. Going 4-13 in 2023 with the end of Belichick, who you were probably saying, thanks, Bill, for your time, but it's time to move on. We're done here. We can't keep doing this. To then Robert bringing in his buddy Jerod Mayo, who I wanted Jerod Mayo to succeed. If you watch that video of me talking about his firing a year ago on Monday, then you will hear me say that I wanted him to succeed, but it didn't work. He kept saying all the wrong things. It started off with him not having a plan on who the hell to hire. No one wanted to be our offensive coordinator. And that to me was kind of a red flag going off like, okay, that's not a good start. Only for him to just throw out lines, burn some cash, talking about how soft the team was. It didn't work. And as much as I wish it did, on the one hand, I'm glad it didn't. And this is where I give Robert Kraft all the kudos in the world. He admitted his mistake. He did. He went out and said, listen, Jerod, I did you a disservice. It wasn't the right time for you. And unfortunately, we're going to have to let you go. We're going to have to go out and bring someone else in because we can't do another year of this. And Robert Kraft was 100% correct. Because do you think if Jerod Mayo was still here that we're getting, a 10-7 season? Is Drake Maye going to make the leaps and bounds with Alex Van Pelt remaining as the offensive coordinator? Not at all. No shot. No shot. I don't know if we're 4-13, but we're sure as hell not 10-7. So that's why, to me, Robert Kraft being able to own up, admit his mistake, lands him number 2 as my Patriot captain of the 2025 regular season. Then I've got Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, Stephon Diggs, and Milton Williams. Those two, Stephon Diggs and Milton Williams, were just absolute studs. Outside of Milton Williams getting injured, missing those 4 crucial games, the dude was an animal. He was earning his keep. He might not have had the biggest stats in the world, but you could tell he was extremely disruptive on the offensive line, or to the offensive line, and was able to help the run game or mitigate the run game. It took how many games before a running back was able to rush for 50 yards? And we talked about that all the way back in like week 9, 10. But even still, the stats were still there. And the Patriots, once Milton Williams got injured, you could see the run differential start to go up and up and up for the rushing defense. Yards per game started off at like 60 something, but then all of a sudden it was in the 70s, then it was in the 80s, then it was in the hundreds. And I think now it dropped a little bit, but even still, I think those two and Stephon Diggs, you could see. barring not talking about his off the field issue, obviously, that I made a post about on the Instagram and YouTube. Haven't checked it out. Oh, no, over here. And there it is. It's hard. It's backwards. So sorry. So, but you could see the leadership that he brought. You could see kind of the differences Stephon Diggs was able to bring to the wide receiver room and more experience, as well as Mac Hollins. You know, I'm not trying to say that Mac Hollins didn't do anything. No, he was excellent for the wide receiver room. He did a lot more than I think I anticipated when we signed him. But those two guys, I think, were just automatic. You know, they're definitely 5 and 6 captains that helped make this team a 14-3 team. And then I've got Vrabel, obviously, at 3, McDaniels at 4. And I think with that, you know, Vrabel getting hired was absolutely the best thing that could have happened to this team. I think he had the pedigree. He was never a Belichick guy. Yes, he played for Bill, but he never coached under Bill, which I think is kind of key, because Vrabel could see being at Ohio State, being at Houston, you know, being at Tennessee. He was able to develop his own style. He was able to develop who he wanted to be as a head coach. And I think you and I both would agree that the Titans firing Vrabel when they did was kind of a shock and pretty foolish, even though he took the year off and was an assistant for the Browns. I was still in shock by that. I couldn't believe that they fired him just because he had 2 average seasons. And you could tell that the Titans owner absolutely still holds everything against Vrabel, even though she was the one that was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and just let him go. So I think that's he came in with an idea, with a culture setting tone. And that's what he did from day one. He set the tone. He knew that these guys, he knew how to get these guys to go and to play and to give it their all. You know, even go further than what they could have even imagined. So I think Vrabel is definitely 3. And then Josh McDaniels. And this is the other thing, too. Are we sure that Vrabel was the one that hired Josh and that wasn't Robert Kraft? Ergo, the fact that Robert Kraft is 2. But even still, what Josh McDaniels was able to do and build on and exceed AVP's quarterback coaching, I think was tremendous. And we saw it. Again, looking at Drake Maye, 72% completion percentage, almost 4,400 yards, 31 touchdowns to 8 picks, a 113.5 passer rating, 77.2 QBR, and a guy who was 1-9 in the NFL going into the season as a starting quarterback. Drake Maye was 1-9. And look at him now. I thought he was going to make a year 2 jump. I'm pretty sure you did as well. But that type of leap, that's almost unprecedented. It's insane. So Josh McDaniels and his teaching, his coaching, his game calling, oh my gosh. Now I'm starting to hear his name being floated out in terms of, being interviewed for head coaches. Man, I don't want him to leave. Can you imagine if we get a good 3 to 4 year run with Maye and McDaniels? That's going to be something, man. That's absolutely going to be something. And I hope that it happens. I absolutely hope that it happens. So tell me what you think. Do you agree with my 6 Patriot captains? Do you think that I missed somebody? Do you have a different list? Do you want to reorganize that list? I don't know. Let me know down below. Otherwise, moving on now to my game day grades. Now, because week 18 is over, the regular season is over, I decided to go back and make a game day grades list for the entire season. Guys who I thought did, and again, I probably missed some guys, so sorry. But guys who I thought were excellent, and then guys who I thought were, kind of crap. So, starting with the 2025 regular season game day grades, who deserved an A? I already mentioned them. Is Drake Maye, Stephon Diggs, Milton Williams. Straight up. Just nice and easy. Already talked about it. Those three absolutely earned A's in my book. As for B's, I gave it to Marcus Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Robert Spillane, and yes, I gave it to a kicker, Andy Borregales. Outside of Borregales' miss a couple weeks ago versus the Dolphins, he was not a couple weeks ago versus the Jets. That's see, already forgetting, right? No, but outside of that, he was pretty consistent all year long. What Andy was able to do, and then for him to hit that 59-yarder going into the half last week, I thought said a lot. I thought he really showed that he could do that. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in this postseason, but I have faith in the kid. I have faith that he can come through when we need it. And it's hard. It's hard to trust rookie kickers. But so far, ever since his horrendous game in Miami, he's absolutely made up for that and has come back and been an absolute consistent kicker. He's made the kicks that he's needed to, and he's kicked a career long at 59 on Sunday. So I like Andy Borregales. Also, Robert Spillane led the team in tackles. And you could tell that his absence has absolutely been felt over the last several weeks. And so he, definitely deserves a B in my book, an excellent free agent signing. I also gave a B to Ramondre Stevenson, a guy I had no intention of giving a high grade for once they played Pittsburgh. Hell, I think I even came on this show talking about Stevenson as a replaceable back. Let's get rid of him. We don't need him anymore. We got Travion Henderson. We're going to be fine. And he shut me up, which, tip of the cap to you, kid. That's awesome. I love it. I love to see that. Listen, I always, go back, reevaluate, and listen, if you keep playing and you keep showing up after I called you out, great. I love it. That's what I want. At the end of the day, I'm calling you out because I want you to be better. So, Stevenson, you killed it, kid. Love it. And then Marcus Jones, obviously his punt return touchdowns were electric. The dude is a hell of a special teamer, but also as a slot corner. He doesn't get a lot of action, and when he does, he's usually right there breaking it up. Right, reminded me a little bit of oh my God, Super Bowl 49. Regardless. Wow. Malcolm Butler. Holy cow. Sheesh. I'm not losing my mind yet, folks. But no, honestly, Marcus Jones is right there. Some guys he's lined up on are much bigger, as you could tell when he was going up against Drake London, Chris Olave, bigger dudes, taller dudes, so they could just jump right over him. But he was right there, and I thought has become an excellent slot corner. So A's, B's. Now we're going to start to get into the uncomfortable territory, and we're going to go with C's. Okay, we're going to go average. I gave it to Will Campbell, Christian Gonzalez, and Travion Henderson. Now, you're probably going to jump off your chair and be like, what do you mean Will Campbell and Travion Henderson? And I'm not blaming Will Campbell for getting injured, by the way. It's not what I'm saying. I thought that as a rookie left tackle, I thought the kid was good. But I didn't think of him as excellent or elite. He's our starting left tackle right now. I think he can be our left tackle for the future. Okay? But it's just going to be interesting to see how it plays out. He's about to go against some really good competition. If we can make a deep run, he's going to see LA. He could see Buffalo again or Jacksonville. And Jacksonville's defense has really come on as of late. He could see Denver or Houston. And tell me, those two D lines are stacked studs. Especially Houston's. You know, luckily for us, Houston would be at home. But even going out to Denver, it's not an easy place to go out to and play. And to go against that defense, it's going to make life very interesting. And then, too, if we do make it to the Super Bowl, a lot of those NFC teams have very good defensive lines. And so, listen, I think Will Campbell can absolutely hold his own. But if I'm evaluating him on the whole season, yeah, I think the kid obviously has some improvements to make. But, excuse me, I don't think that those improvements are much. If anything, I give him a C+. Okay? And same thing with Travion Henderson. It's a C+ for me. I say that because, the first month and a half of the season, every time he was out there, he was a liability. He was non-existent. His elite pass blocking skills that we all thought that he had coming out of college were non-existent. Why do you think Ramondre Stevenson took over as the third down pass blocker? You know? And yes, Travion did finally show up, rip off some massive runs, score a bunch of touchdowns in a select few games. But again, I thought as a collective, as a whole, Travion Henderson gets a C. Now, for Christian Gonzalez, it's hard to judge corners like Gonzalez because when you're game planning against the Patriots as an offense, the one guy you don't want to throw to is him. And that makes a lot of sense. When you have Gonzalez in man-to-man coverage versus the top receivers, he's pretty damn good. He goes with them everywhere they go. Now, the problem is, I think part of it was we played a lot of zone. We were very schematically misaligned with Gonzalez. And he also missed a good portion of the season with that hamstring injury. And I'm not, again, same thing with Will Campbell. I'm not blaming him for being injured. That's not what I'm doing. But it just seemed like there were times and situations where we're playing zone where I don't know if that's really Gonzalez's style. You know, he reminds me a lot of Stephon Gilmore. And remember that first season with Gilmore? He was horrendous because we were playing a lot of zone. And then when we switched to man, bam, we had him. All of a sudden, he was Defensive Player of the Year. So, again, I love Gonzalez. I think he is the elite of the elite cornerbacks. I do. Just felt like this year wasn't necessarily him. And it's not like I could really have a lot to judge on because quarterbacks weren't throwing his way. So, again, there was the what I did see is why I gave Gonzalez a C. Then for D's, I gave it to Carlton Davis III, Jared Wilson, and Harold Landry III. All three of these guys had games where they were A's or B's. You know, not going to deny that. They showed that they were great, that they were great additions to this team, whether through the draft or free agency. But that doesn't mean that everything was perfect. Carlton Davis, because of Gonzalez's status, was picked on a lot. And while there were times he came up huge, he came up clutch, Cincinnati being one of them, it wasn't easy. He had a lot of issues. especially a lot of different calls. A lot of penalties go against him. Some were wildly stupid, where you're just sitting there going, holy cow, like, refs, do you need LASIK eye surgery? Do you need me to go out and get you a pair of glasses that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was wearing while he was on the Lakers to say, hey, look, now you can actually see what's going on? Or they were blatant penalties where you're like, oh, God, of course. And, of course, it was on him. So Carlton Davis, not the best. Jared Wilson, again, rookie. He was drafted in the mid rounds, and just there was some catching up. He had to start. He was our best left guard, and that says a lot about our depth at O-line. Now, luckily for us, when Wilson was out, Campbell was out, we were able to work around that. Josh McDaniels was able to build an offense around that, so that way they didn't have as much pressure. But still, there were some very good games from Jared Wilson, but a lot of games I felt like he could have been better. A lot of games he did have some knocks go against him. So, listen, I like him. I want him to succeed. I said this on the show a couple of months ago. I think that Jared Wilson next year should make the move into center unless there is a free agent out there. I just was reading on X a potential to go after the Ravens center, Tyler Linderbaum. But if we get him, then yeah, all right, we'll keep Wilson at left guard and be like, learn. Like, hey, you've already done one season. You can keep going. Otherwise, I thought there were more poor games than not. And then for Harold Landry, came up with 8.5 sacks, I think is the total, which, again, phenomenal. Love to see it. He, led the team in sacks. But it just felt like he disappeared a lot. He did come up with sacks. I'm not mad about that. Again, led the team. Like, that's huge. Maybe I should have put him at C. Maybe I should. Like, hey, I wrote this out. I was thinking about it, and back and forth, and I just threw him there. Not threw him there. Like, I had an idea, because at the end of the day, it felt like Harold Landry disappeared for a lot of games, and that some of his sacks came on plays because the quarterback ran right to him. Otherwise, listen, I hope that Harold Landry's last couple of games where he's been able to heal up, there's been a lot of talk about a knee injury, and I hope that, after missing the last couple of games, that he's healed up, he's ready to go, and because we need him. No denying that. We need Harold Landry, and I know that he can bring it. I absolutely know that he can bring it. So then lastly, going with the Fs, Marte Mapu, Brendan Schooler. Schooler is no Matthew Slater. I can tell you that right now. The fact, like, he comes up with some really bad penalties. I mean, that Buffalo game in particular, when he grabbed the face mask of a guy already falling down, giving them an extra 15 yards off of that. He had he had 55 yards worth of penalties, which is the most in his career. He did, and then too, when he was in coverage, he was horrendous. Sorry. And I understand that, when he goes into coverage, we're blowing that team out. Absolutely. But the dude can't play safety at all to save his life. Like, again, I wish that his special team performances were more Matthew Slater, but they're not. So, listen, I think Schooler, listen, I think we could find a special team gunner like that anywhere. We could find a gunner more than we could find another legit running back to replace Stevenson with, right? So, Schooler, and then Mapu. Again, Mapu, gave up that horrendous first down on 3rd and 17 to Miami on Sunday, so maybe it's recency bias. But again, he had 26 tackles, really was non-existent, and again, it's not like he was our starting linebacker, which thank God. But again, I wish he was better, but he wasn't. So those are my game day grades for the season. And now talking about the AFC playoffs, now we're finally made it. It turns out the Patriots obviously had the same record as the Broncos at 14-3, but because we lost to Vegas, we're the number 2 seed, followed up by Jacksonville at 3, Pittsburgh at 4, Houston at 5, Buffalo at 6, and we get the privilege to play the Chargers, who come in at 11-6 as the 7th seed. This is going to be a good game. I think it's really going to be a good game on Sunday. And the best part is it's Sunday night. Sunday night in Foxborough, baby. That place is going to be rocking. You're going to love to see every second of it. Looking at it, the 11-6 Chargers come into Gillette Stadium to take on the 14-3 Patriots. See, I'm used to saying 4, right? 2 seasons of that. Now we're better. We're much better than that. We're done with that garbage. We put in our time, right? We've put in our time. No more suffering in Foxborough anymore. So then I got positional comparisons. Now this was interesting. When it comes to basically the offense, I would take Drake Maye over Justin Herbert. I would take Maye over Herbert. I would take Stevenson and Henderson over Hampton and Vidal. I would take our wide receivers over LA's, but it was much closer than you think. Listen, I have a lot of respect for Keenan Allen. I have a lot of respect for Ladd McConkey, who shoved it down our throats last year. I was at that game. Ladd McConkey and Herbert went off, and I was the one who was like, oh, wait, how funny. I came on here last year and was like, oh, wait, how funny. We had the opportunity to draft Ladd McConkey, but then our GM was like, nah, we're going to trade back. We're going to get a bum and then more picks, who we screwed up on royally. So, yeah, that was fun. Otherwise, listen, and then Quentin Johnson is their deep threat. They got good receivers. They really do. But I think the way our guys have been playing versus the way they've been playing, I don't know. I do know. I would take our guys. I would bet on our guys more than I would theirs. I have a lot of respect for them. They're a very good team. I think Keenan Allen has not aged out, but he's older. Ladd McConkey did not have a good season. And also Quentin Johnson started off extremely hot. Holy cow, was he on fire earlier this season, but then fell off because people were like, all right, we're just going to get back. And he got hurt. So, and then as for tight ends, Oronde Gadsden, rookie, was very good, but he had some problems dropping the football. And, he had, granted, 6 drops, but he led the team and was 5th amongst all tight ends with 6 drops and had a drop percentage of 8.7%, which that was 5th amongst all tight ends. Guys got frying pan hands. And that's why, obviously, I would take Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper over them. And then the offensive line, they lost both their tackles. And so why wouldn't I take our offensive line over theirs, right? Like their offensive line is not good. I don't know if they sat Justin Herbert last week to intentionally want to play us because we don't get after the quarterback that much. But if that's the case, then I think you're walking into a buzzsaw, in my opinion. An LA team plays in a dome, coming to New England, going to play in 20-degree weather. They don't have a good run game. Justin Herbert's a very good quarterback, but his playoff history says otherwise, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. But the other thing is, when looking at the defense, I still lean toward us in the defensive line department, but then linebackers, defensive backs, I gave the Chargers. The Chargers defense is much better than ours. And they have some stats that are better than ours. We have some stats that are better than theirs. But when all is said and done, they have more interceptions, 9 more interceptions than we do. They got 19, we've got 10. But we have more fumble recoveries than they do. We have 9, they've got 4. At the end of the day, we are 10th and 11th in turnover differential, with us at +3 and them at +2. Whenever you play a team, whenever you play a defense that has a positive turnover differential, you got to take that team seriously. I mean, you got to take every team seriously, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, and then looking at Justin Herbert versus Drake Maye, I already read you a lot of Drake Maye stats, but looking at Herbert, he's played 1 less game than Maye at 16. He's thrown for 3,727 yards to Maye's 4,394. Herbert's got a 66.4 completion percentage to Maye's 72. Herbert has thrown a lot more interceptions this year. He's got 26 touchdowns to 13 interceptions, and whereas Maye is 31. He's got 31 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. And then when you're looking at Herbert's passer rating, he's got 94.1 to Maye's 113.5. And Herbert's got a QBR of 60.8 to Drake Maye's 77.2. Now, when looking at Justin Herbert's stats from last year, if I can pull it up here, his interceptions the last 2 years, he threw 7 interceptions in 2023 in 13 games, and then in 2024 in 17 games, played an entire season, he only threw 3. So I think Justin Herbert can be a very good quarterback in this league. I don't know why he kind of fell off a little bit this year. I think that's in part due to his team. Listen, I think his receivers are very good. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey. I praised Ladd McConkey a lot last year. But, he's got 3 receivers that averaged over 700 yards. And talk about consistent. You're spreading the ball around, so you trust all 3 guys. But, again, I think Herbert can get a little he can get a little off platform and try to fit the ball into tight spaces because he's got a powerful arm. And that's what leads him into trouble. And looking at Justin Herbert's playoff record, this is what I want to talk about earlier. Justin Herbert's a regular season quarterback. I mean, because if you look at his playoffs, yes, it is only 2 games, but he's 0-2, completes barely half of his passes at 52%. He throws for 257.5 pass yards a game. He's got 2 passing touchdowns, 4 picks, and a passer rating of 60.7. His first ever playoff game was in Jacksonville, where they had a 27-0 lead and a 27-7 lead at the half, and then ended up losing 31-30. And then last year was his second game, where they had a 6-0 lead after the first quarter, and subsequently got blown out 32-12. They scored 6 points in the first quarter, 6 points in the fourth quarter, nothing else in between. And I understand. I hate the fact that a lot of people Herbert's not a playoff quarterback. He's a regular season. He sucks in the playoffs. And while I just showed you the stats as to why, yeah, that could be true, I also take a look at it going, listen, it's 2 games. But God forbid the Patriots don't make it out of this game. What are we going to be saying all for the next 12 months? Is Drake Maye really the guy? So, again, I get it. I understand. It's kind of a talking point and a sad one at that because I like Herbert. I think he's a good quarterback. But look at those stats. 52% completion percentage in 2 games in the playoffs. That's not good. Having a 27-0 lead, only to lose 31-30. What the hell happened? So that to me is an interesting piece to see kind of which Herbert are we going to get on Sunday night. But taking a look at the offense versus defense. So the Chargers offense versus the Patriots defense. The Chargers throw for about 212.2 yards per game, which ranks 18th in the NFL, whereas the Patriots allow 193.5 pass yards per game, which ranks 9th. The Chargers rush for 121.6 yards per game, which is 12th in the NFL, above average, whereas the Patriots only allow 101.7 rush yards per game, which is just out of the top 5 at 6th in the NFL. The Chargers score 21.6 points per game, which has them below average at 20th in the NFL. But the Patriots allow only 18.8 points per game, which ranks 4th in the NFL. Then switching gears, the Patriots offense throws for 250.5 yards per game, which is 4th in the NFL, whereas the Chargers only allow 179.9 passing yards per game, which ranks 5th. The Patriots offense rushes for 128.9 yards, ranking 6th amongst NFL teams. And the Chargers allow only 105.4 rush yards, ranking them 8th in the NFL. But then when you come down to scoring, the Patriots are the second highest scoring team in the NFL, scoring at 28.8 points per game. Whereas the Chargers hold teams to 20 points per game even, ranking 9th in the NFL. This is by far the best defense the Patriots have seen. Now, don't get me wrong. We've seen some top defenses. We've seen when we played the Falcons, they had the number 1 pass defense in the NFL at that time. So it's not like the Patriots have only played bad defenses and that we've only played bad offenses. When you're talking about the whole strength of schedule, yes, you have teams that suck, that lose. But at the same time, the Patriots went up against Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Oh, no, wait. We only went up against T. Higgins. That's right. Because Jamar Chase spit on a guy. But we went up against some good weapons. We went up against some good quarterbacks. And then for our offense, we went up against some good defenses. Again, the Falcons being one of them, ranking number 1 in the NFL in terms of pass yards allowed. So I believe that this game is going to come down to which offense can take advantage of the defense. Because both teams are top 10 defenses. When you're looking at points per game, yards per game, whether pass, rush, or total. Okay? And then the one thing I do want to bring up is kind of the history of the Chargers Patriots in the playoffs, where you have the Patriots and Chargers playing in the playoffs since 2000. In 2006, we won 24-21 because Tom Brady threw an interception and then Troy Brown ripped the ball out of the guy's hands. And we ended up winning that game, going to the AFC Championship in Indianapolis. So that was the 2006 divisional round game. In 2007, Phillip Rivers had a torn ACL, or hell, tore both his ACLs. It was something stupid. But he played on it, and it was a much tighter game than 21-12, 9-point win. You would think the Patriots kind of had control. No, we didn't. If you were looking for the cracks, that was your game to see. The Patriots were going to be in for a rude awakening in the Super Bowl in 07, obviously. And then the last one was the 2018 divisional round game where everybody was doubting the Patriots, saying that the Patriots didn't have it anymore. But we did, and we dominated LA 41-28 here in Foxborough. Set up our matchup for Kansas City, where we beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead to then beat the Rams in the Super Bowl. So, listen, I think this is going to be a good matchup. I really do. I think this is going to be a lot tighter than people, think. You might look at my score and think it's a blowout, where I don't think so. I think the Patriots are actually going to run away with this. I think it's going to be a halftime. It's going to be super tight. I don't know who's going to have the lead at the half, but I do think that by the middle of the third quarter, everything is going to start to click for our defense, and we're going to end up winning this game 41-24. I think we'll have a lead going into half. I just said I didn't know, but I do think we'll have a lead going into half, and then we'll just expound on it and then run away with this game. I think, listen, as much as I like the Chargers, as much as I like Jim Harbaugh, as much as I love Justin Herbert, listen, I think Drake Maye is much better suited to go against this defense than Justin Herbert is to go against our defense. I think with their O-line issues is something that we can absolutely take advantage on. We do blitz a lot more than LA does. They like to play a lot more zone, which has actually been very successful for Drake Maye. And I think we can take advantage of that. So I do believe that the Patriots are going to get the victory again. We are going to go on to the divisional round, where we'd either be playing the Jaguars or the winner of the Steelers-Texans game. What do you think? Comment down below. So that's the whole Patriot talk, right? Because we just talked a lot about, a bunch of different things. MVP, talking about, the captains for the season, obviously regular season, game day grades, total. And now we're going to go into a subject that you all know and love as the Boston Red Sox. And you love to hear my comments because, again, careful, kid, they'll break your heart. The best line in that entire movie, Fever Pitch, because it's the most true. Because now you have a situation where the Red Sox are once again mentioned in free agent signings, which is ironic because when you look at the AL East and who has actually spent money in the AL East this offseason, the Blue Jays are number one at spending $337 million. The Orioles are number two at $195.1 million. The Yankees have even spent money this free agency at $29 million. Guess how much the Red Sox have spent in free agency? Want to take a guess? Okay, ready? Zero. Goose egg. Nada. Zilch. Zero. I can't stress it enough. Yeah, they've made some trades, but they don't spend in free agency. I've already come on here and bitched about the fact that the Red Sox let Pete Alonso go because they were too chicken to not only go 5 years, but to go up to 155. They were so low, it was laughable. If I was Pete Alonso, I would have laughed in their face at how low they offered me. And so that brings me forward to Buster Olney, who wrote, "What are you hearing about the big four remaining free agent hitters? Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Bo Bichette, Cody Bellinger," right? So when he comes to the Boston Red Sox, he says, quote, "The Boston Red Sox want Bregman and have signaled a willingness to pay him big money, perhaps something in the range of what the Tigers offered him last spring, a 6 years, $171.5 million deal." They have signaled a willingness to spend. On Alex Bregman, who's 32 years old, or is going to be 32 years old, and they want to give him a 6-year, $171.5 million contract, where last year he was going to be 31, and this was the contract that the Tigers were offering him, yet we offered him 3 one-year deals worth $40 million each. And what I mean by 3 one-year deals is he had the ability to opt out after each year. So it really wasn't a long-term deal. It was a 1-year deal, 2024 or 2025, a 1-year deal in 26, 1-year deal in 27. So you're telling me, Buster and Scott Boras, that the Red Sox have said they are willing to spend 6 years, $171.5 million on Alex Bregman, who's 32 years old. Yeah, in your bra, as Jim Carrey would say on Liar Liar. I mean, what are you doing? There's no way. You're telling me that the team that refused to sign Pete Alonso, who was a year younger, to a 5-year deal, they didn't even go up to 5. They did 3 and then an opt-in for a 4th year with Pete Alonso, who's a year younger than Bregman. You're telling me now that they're going to go up to 6 for a guy a year older who's going to be going, that will pay him through his 38-year-old season? No, absolutely not. I don't know what information you're getting, Buster, but you gotta really do some hard-nosed digging there, because that's ridiculous. Have you not seen what these morons in the front office of Fenway Park are willing to go? They're not going anywhere near that. They refuse to do that. You know, and even Jen McCaffrey in The Athletic wrote, quote, "The source who's familiar with the Bregman negotiations confirmed an ESPN report that the Red Sox's offer was, quote, aggressive," end quote. What? Does that mean that the aggressive is 3 and $120? Or no, 3 and 100? Like, that's what you're telling me here. You're telling me that the Red Sox are aggressive, you know, just like Mike Reese said a couple of years ago.
Aggressively.
Aggressively, right? I mean, that's no. Can we actually do some work here? I mean, listen, I'm not saying that these people are bad reporters, that they're getting bad information. They might be getting bad information, but I'm not saying that they're bad reporters. No, I mean, Jen McCaffrey's an excellent reporter at The Athletic. Buster Olney is a staple for ESPN when it comes to breaking, news on baseball for ESPN. That's not what I'm implying at all. What I'm implying is that it's just ridiculous to think that the Red Sox are aggressive when, to them, aggressive is an entirely different meaning. It doesn't mean 6 at 171. Do you think that if the Red Sox came to Scott Boras and Alex Bregman and said, "Here's a contract, 6 years, $171 million," do you really think Bregman would leave without signing that? I think he would sign that right then and there because it gives him the longevity, it gives him the money that he's looking for, roughly, and that it's like, all right, there we go. Bregman's back with the Red Sox. No, I think this is blowing smoke. I think it's trying to get a team out there to freak out and overpay. I don't believe the Red Sox are going to go 6 anywhere near 171. Hey, listen, if they do, then I'll be wrong and I'll be glad about it. All I can say is, though, as I said the last time I talked about the Red Sox on a rant, was the fact that signing Bregman would mean giving the same exact team as last year. It really, okay, yeah, you get Wilson Contreras. Nice. But you didn't do anything. You didn't improve the roster that you needed to. You got Johan Oviedo, who Jen McCaffrey even wrote herself. Yeah, the Red Sox have added Contreras, Sonny Gray, Johan Oviedo, and pitching prospect Jake Bennett. But as she says right after mentioning those 4 names, quote, each carry their own set of questions. Exactly. Because the Red Sox don't know what the hell they're doing. They think they do. They think that they can be the smartest man in the room. Because that's what it's all about. It's about being the smartest man, getting the best deal that you can get. But guess what? There's no such thing in sports as the best deal. Unless you're the Patriots and Tom Brady. Then yes, the Patriots got the best of that deal 10 ways to Sunday. But guess what? No other sport, no other athlete will ever do what Tom Brady did. None. Zero. Like, it won't happen. And also to get the performance that you got out of Brady will never happen. I know I cross sports here, but it doesn't matter because I'm trying to talk about an athlete signing a contract below his market value and performing outside of even what the market value would have been. So that is why, listen, I don't believe for a second that the Red Sox are offering 6 years. I don't. And if they do, great. Am I going to be impressed? Slightly. But I'm also not going to let them off the hook for scoffing at Pete Alonso the way they did. And listen, I understand he's not a defenseman, all right? But he's a first baseman. You need that. And he's younger than Wilson Contreras. And he doesn't have as much off the field issues as any of between Wilson Contreras and Rafi Devers. So, what are we doing? What are we doing? The last thing I do want to talk about is the Boston Bruins. All right, so the Bruins, I think they're done. I said that this team was going to be last. In the last day of the year, they were going to sneak right on into the wild card in the final spot. I also predicted the Atlantic Division totally wrong, outside of Tampa Bay. But when it comes to the Bees, as it currently stands right now, they are the second to last team in the Atlantic Division, but they have 2 games on the Senators, and so if you break it down by per point, actually the Bruins are kind of in last place. Okay? It's crazy to me that this team a month ago was number 1 in the Atlantic Division. They were number 1 for half a second. But then what happened? They went on another 6-game losing skid. The second one of the season. They had a 7-game skid, a 6-game skid. You know, and somehow they snapped out of it against friggin' Edmonton of all teams in Edmonton, which blew my mind. Sometimes, hey, you know what they say? A blind squirrel finds a nut eventually. So that to me is, just one of those things where I'm looking at this team going, I don't think they have it. And the funny part was when we were on a 7-game win streak, you had people and articles talking about the Bruins as buyers. And even while they were on that win streak, I was on here saying, don't buy. This is not the time to buy at the trade deadline. If anything, this is once again the time to sell. I think not only back then, but now, you need to be sellers at the deadline. I understand it's hard. I understand it's not what you want to do. I'm not looking for this team to tank and be last place again. I don't want to be left with just the Celtics. I love the Celtics. Don't get me wrong. I love basketball. I love the team. But I also want to have a hockey season. That's so wrong. But it looks like it's not going to happen. After giving up 6 goals, 7 if you include the empty netter, but 6 goals to Seattle, and in the fashion that they did at the end of the second period, I was watching that game go, what the hell are we doing? And so there's been a point where Jeremy Swayman has had great stats, but a lot of those stats that I kept hearing from sports talk radio and Bruins beat writers and on X and written about it was that it was all expected goal or expected saves. That he was out of his shoes in terms of saves made that were unexpected, right? Something to that effect. I'm sorry, I forget the exact line. Otherwise, but still, again, I maybe it's because it's not that I have an axe to grind against Swayman. I don't. But because of what he did and how he commanded more money and just the way he went about it, I'm looking at it going, I still don't think that he is a true number 1 starting goaltender in the NHL. I don't. I think Jeremy Swayman is best when he's part of a dynamic duo, when he's part of a tag team. Whether he's the number 1 on the tag team or the number 2, I don't care. Because that tag team is rotating after every game. Swayman played tonight. Allmark plays in 2 days. Swayman plays after that. Like bing, bang, boom. Just nice and easy. So, as much as I want them to have a hockey season, I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. And it sucks to have to do it. But if I'm trying to be consistent, I don't want them to tank. I also don't want them to sell off Fraser Minton. I don't want them to sell off some of these younger pieces that have really kind of grown up this season. But if you give me a pretty decent deal for Victor Arvidsson, Casey Middlestat, hell, I wouldn't even flinch at trading Charlie McAvoy. You got to give me the right deal, obviously, but I'd do it in a heartbeat. Hampus Lindholm just went back on the IR. That dude can't stay healthy. If you can't get rid of him at the trade deadline, I'd try to get rid of him in the offseason. It's just this team it's not good. And you had the team come in with the expectation that we were going to play defensively and that we were going to play to keep the scoring down low. That's what it was all about. Instead, we're 25th out of 32 teams for goals allowed per game. It's not like we're in the bottom of the league in that, allowing 3.3 goals per game. I don't see how this team can go on such a run. We've already played more than half the games this season. I don't see how this team could go on such a run by the beginning of March with the Olympics coming up that we should end up being buyers at the trade deadline. Sorry, Bobby. I don't think it's going to happen this year. So, tell me what you guys think. Listen, I really appreciate you guys hanging out. You know, it's fun. You got a big game on Sunday. You know, don't forget, comment down below. Listen, it's if you enjoyed this show, do me a favor, please hit the follow button. Otherwise, you can leave a 5-star review and tell a friend, who loves Boston sports, or even if they hate Boston sports, tell them to tune in. Wednesdays at 7. Trying to build community here, and what it means to be a fan in the greatest sports city in America. We're the Boston Sports Summit. That's what it's all about, baby. So please comment down below. Give me a like, share, subscribe over on Instagram, X, YouTube. And don't forget, check out some of the guys over at the Grid Network. Great group of guys. Also love talking about sports. Tough part is, though, they're not Boston fans. So let's appreciate you hanging out. And I will see you next week. Due to some circumstances, we'll probably do the show next Tuesday or Thursday. So, again, Instagram and X to figure out when that will be, but it'll be either next Tuesday or Thursday. So, thank you so much, and I will see you all then. Have a great night, great week. Go Pats. Let's go on to the divisional round. And as always, God bless. Thank you.